Okay, so now that we know that our blog application is up and running and we have our database configured correctly, we want to actually set up some authentication for our application, and Phoenix LiveView makes it super easy. All we have to do is run mix phoenix gen.auth, and what this is going to do is the Phoenix generators will set up authentication for our application. Now we need to set up our application to have accounts, and we want our module to be user and our database to be users, the plural form. And when you use this structure, Phoenix will go ahead and configure all of the necessary steps. So you can see this one short little line of code here is going to set up accounts with users, and the user structure will be created for us that allow us to manage authentication for our application. So let's go ahead and set up our Phoenix authentication. This will take a couple of minutes. It will prompt us if we want to set this up as LiveView, which is the default, or if we want to use Phoenix controllers only. We are focusing primarily on making this a LiveView application to take the advantage of the benefits that LiveView gives us, which is that real-time interactivity with the client-server model using sockets. So what we're going to do is just use the default here. So we will select yes, which is, if it's the default, we can just hit enter and it will select the capital one that is our default, which was the yes option in this case. Now it says to please refetch the dependencies with the following commands. So we want to follow the steps that Phoenix gives to us when we run the Phoenix generate auth command. So we're going to go ahead and do the deps get again, and then it says to also update the repository by running our migrations, and we'll do mix ecto migrate afterwards. So this is going to set up our user models that's going to contain all that information. So mix ecto, and we will do a migrate. Okay, so we did we installed the deps, and now we're going to do the echo migrate. This may take a quick minute. Okay, that was pretty quick. So before we look at all of the code that was automatically generated for us by using the Phoenix generators, particularly the Phoenix auth generator, let's go ahead and let's just see what it actually did in terms of its practical usage. So we're going to fire up our server by doing IEX, and we'll do the capital S option with mix Phoenix server. I'll assume that you know how to do this going forward, so I won't reiterate this command every time I start up the server going forward. But just remember, that's how you start your server. And we will open up our endpoint. So our application looks a little bit different now. It now has this register and login section here on the top left of our application. Greetings, productive programmer. Just a heads up, when I recorded this video, my navigation was on the top left here. Your navigation will appear on the top right. Just minor UI appearance changes. The functionality is the same. They just added a couple CSS classes to move it over to the right and make it look a little bit nicer, and it does look a lot nicer now. And actually, later on in this course, you'll understand exactly how to move around, modify, and update the user interface any way that you want. You'll actually gain the power and flexibility later in this course as we discuss Tailwind CSS. And I actually show you later on in this course exactly where the design and where these login and registration buttons live inside the application layout. So you'll know how to basically do anything you want with those later on in the course. All right, so let's get back to our lesson. So let's go ahead and register a user. Let's see if this will work. I'm going to try to register user test at test.com. And let's see what happens when I set up my password, which will just be test, 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 which will satisfy the 12-character limit that's enforced. And again, because this is LiveView, we get this LiveView validation feedback for us right there, which is really nicely. That's all built into the generator command that generated this LiveView for us. So we are going to create the account. And now it says our account has been successfully created. You can also see that we are automatically logged in here. We can go to the settings section. We could modify our email and our password if we wanted to. And we can also log out and then log back in. And we are logged back in again, and we can says welcome back here. So that's pretty cool. I mean, we ran one really short, simple command, and we have authentication now for our application. Now, this is just the start. We can log in, we can log out. we are going to see how we can enforce this authentication for certain endpoints that we're going to build out for our blog application. But this is a good starting point, and it actually generated quite a bit of code for us. If we come back to our code, we can see that the library had the accounts.ex file created for us. And this file specifies the blog accounts. And our application also created under the blog account section, the user. So we have our user module here, which contains all of the schema for setting up users table schema. And it specifies all of the fields that we're going to use on our table schema. So this was all taken care of for us. If we wanted to look at this, we could go into our terminal and we could just quickly fire up our Postgres session. And if we connect to our blog_dev database, which again is the one that's configured in our dev.exs, so it says blog dev. And we can take a look at our tables here by doing /d. We can see the users table was created for us by that authentication generator that Phoenix provides for us on our command line interface. And we can take a look at this users table. So we'll select *, which is select everything from our users table. And we will see that our test@test.com user was created. The password is hashed, so the security is already built into Phoenix. Additionally, the authentication generator sets up a lot of additional stuff, such as our repo, which handles all of our migrations. And this is how our database actually got set up. So this migration file here is what was used to actually make the change and create the table users. So that table that we just looked at in the Postgres shell was created with this migration file. And when we ran mix ecto migrate, it was this file that was actually executed. So all of this stuff, one simple command, I mean, you saw how short that command was. This one little command right here that we ran generated all of this stuff. And as you can see, this is hugely powerful. We can now just log into this application really simply, all by just running this one little command. And our application is set up to handle authentication now. And it's up to us to enforce it to a certain degree, but additionally, as you'll see in the coming lessons, we'll see how Phoenix actually, this auth command has already gone ahead and set up some very useful code that's going to allow us to make it really easy to plug and play the authentication parts, make sure that users are only able to access certain endpoints based on if they are logged in and authenticated or not. So we'll take a look at how that looks and works in future lessons. But for now, just really taking the power at your disposal, one little simple command like this, and now we have everything generated for us. By the way, it also generates the test files. So that way we can just simply run mix test and we can actually run tests on our application to make sure it's working correctly. And so the first time you run this, you'll have to do some compiling. So it may take a little bit longer, but once all of these files are compiled, our tests will execute and our application will check to make sure that our authentication is successfully working. And once your test's complete, you'll see that it says it's finished. It shows you how long it took. It also shows you all of the tests that ran and the success and failures. In this case, this is a brand new project with authentication just set up. So all of the tests are passing, but this will make sure that as we make changes to our application, should we do anything that could potentially cause the application to stop functioning, particularly with the authentication now, then we'll be notified and we can correct for that immediately. And it'll also allow us to write test cases, and we'll take a look at how tests work a little bit throughout this course so you can familiarize yourself with how to do some testing in your application. So it might not feel like a lot happened because Phoenix really makes things so easy and productive for us. I mean, that's why I love using Phoenix LiveView. The productivity that we gain, we were able to spin up authentication in just a few short seconds here, essentially. And we have all the complexity taken care of for us in our code. And all we had to do was run that one simple little command. And now we are ready to continue the discussion. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can set up your blog application so that you can post and save blogs and edit and delete them. And I'm going to show you how you can set that up almost as quickly as we set up the authentication generators using Phoenix. So the Phoenix GenAuth, That was really quick. We can now log in as different users, register as users, log out and log back in. But as you'll see in the coming lessons, I'll show you how this authentication piece will tie into our blog post, right? Because we want to have our own personal blog posts. We don't want other people to be able to log in and edit our blog posts. So how do we set up our authentication to determine if we can edit a blog post or if we can't edit somebody else's blog post? Well, that's what's going to come up in the next lessons. We're going to take a look at how the authentication component is going to tie into the configuration of our blog application to ensure that only users that are authorized can edit and delete their own post. We're basically going to limit what users can do. So I'll see you over the next lesson where we'll build out our blog application components using Phoenix LiveView.